I still remember the rain pelting against my face as I stood on the curb, my husband's car disappearing into the distance. 10 miles from home in the worst storm our county had seen in decades, and Derek had actually left me there because I'd embarrassed him at his company dinner. 20 years of marriage, and this was what it had come to? I fumbled with my phone, rainwater making the screen unresponsive, my fingers trembling with a mix of cold, shock, and something else, rage. Not the fleeting kind, but the slow-burning type that had been building for years. What Derek didn't know was that I'd made a call earlier that evening, a call that would change everything. As lightning cracked across the sky, I saw headlights approaching, not just any car, but a sleek, black Bentley that pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a face Derek hadn't seen in 15 years, a face he thought was long gone from our lives. The driver's smile told me everything I needed to know. It was time. After years of secrets and sacrifice, it was finally time. Derek and I met at Stanford during my sophomore year. He was ambitious, charming, and from old Palo Alto money, the kind of family where summer homes in Martha's Vineyard were discussed casually over brunch at the country club. I was a scholarship student from Bakersfield, working 2 jobs to afford textbooks. Our worlds couldn't have been more different, but we fell in love anyway. His parents, especially his mother, Eleanor, never approved. "She's not our kind, Derek," I overheard her say at our engagement party, champagne flute poised delicately between manicured fingers. "No connections, no family name. What will the Huntingtons think?" But Derek defended me back then, told them he didn't care about their social circles or expectations. The early years were good. We moved to Boston for Derek's MBA at Harvard, and I put my journalism career on hold. We had Sophia and then Tyler, and I threw myself into motherhood while Derek climbed the corporate ladder at McKinsey. The first real cracks appeared during a Thanksgiving at the Westport estate. Eleanor accidentally spilled cranberry sauce on my only designer dress, a splurge I'd saved for months to buy. "Oh dear, Target fabric just doesn't hold up to cleaning, does it?" she'd said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Derek had laughed along, his first betrayal of many. Then came the Aspen incident when the children were 8 and 6. Derek's firm had rented a chalet for executives and their families. During a dinner with partners, I'd mentioned my brother's struggle with addiction. Derek kicked me under the table, but it was too late. The next morning, he exploded. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Jackson might not make me partner now. Can't you just pretend to be normal for one weekend?" As the years passed, I shrunk myself smaller and smaller. I edited my speech, curated my opinions, selected my clothes to match his expectations. The girl from Bakersfield disappeared completely. When Derek made partner, we moved to a sprawling colonial in Greenwich, Connecticut. I joined the right committees, hosted the right parties, befriended the right wives. But it was never enough for Eleanor, who still introduced me as Derek's wife from California after 15 years of marriage. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that my grandfather had left me something when he died during my senior year at Stanford. Not money, but shares in a small tech startup where he'd been an early employee. I'd almost forgotten about them until an email arrived 5 years ago. The company was being acquired, and my seemingly insignificant shares were now worth millions. I kept it secret, watching Derek become increasingly dismissive, increasingly controlling. I opened a separate account, made quiet investments, and waited. Not for revenge, but for the courage to reclaim myself. And then I met Marcus. Marcus wasn't a lover. He was the CEO of a digital media company who wanted to launch a platform for underrepresented voices in journalism. We met at a charity function where Derek had abandoned me to network. Marcus recognized my name from articles I'd published before marriage. He offered me a partnership position, and for the first time in decades, someone valued my mind again. I began working with Marcus secretly, investing in the company, finding my voice again. all while planning what Derek would later call my grand betrayal, though I prefer to think of it as my grand reclamation. Last month marked Derek's 20th anniversary at the firm. The celebration was to be held at the Greenwich Club, a black-tie affair with partners, clients, and of course, his parents flying in from California. For weeks, the event consumed our household. Derek had his tuxedo custom-fitted in the city. He even scheduled appointments for me with his approved stylist, nutritionist, and cosmetic dermatologist. The Richardsons' divorce announcement has everyone talking, he mentioned casually over breakfast 3 days before the event. Since you'll be seated with Marianne Phillips and Sarah Cabot, avoid the topic completely. And remember, no second glass of champagne this time. The Hawthorne dinner was embarrassing enough. I nodded automatically, the way I always did. But something felt different. Perhaps it was the text I'd received from Marcus that morning. Tokyo investors confirmed. We're launching in September. My secret project, our digital media platform championing diverse journalists, was becoming reality. The day of the dinner, Eleanor arrived early to help me prepare, which meant critiquing everything from my choice of earrings to how I'd arrange the fresh flowers in the foyer. "Darling," she said, eyeing my dress, a sophisticated navy column I'd selected myself, "don't you think something with more structure would be more forgiving?" Her gaze lingered on my hips. The wives all wear Espada or Carolina Herrera to these functions. "This is Valentino, Eleanor," I replied quietly. "Off the rack, I assume?" She smiled thinly. "You know, I still have that personal shopper at Bergdorf's. She worked wonders for Derek's cousin Rebecca after her second baby." Tyler and Sophia, home from college for the weekend, exchanged glances across the room. At 19 and 21, they'd grown increasingly uncomfortable with how their father and grandmother treated me. "Mom looks beautiful," Sophia interjected, squeezing my hand. The tension continued as we dressed. Derek inspected me in our bedroom with clinical detachment. "Your hair looks frizzy. Did you use the product Richard recommended?" He frowned. "And those aren't the earrings we discussed." "These were my mother's," I said. "They look cheap. Wear the pearls from last Christmas." He checked his watch. "The car will be here in 20 minutes. Don't make us late." At the club, we moved through the expected choreography. Derek introduced me to people I'd met dozens of times, speaking over me when I tried to contribute to conversations. During cocktails, I overheard him with the managing partner. "She's been a trooper, following me from city to city all these years," he said, as if I were a particularly loyal Labrador. The seating arrangement placed me between two partners' wives who immediately began discussing their recent plastic surgeons, as if comparing notes on gardeners. Eleanor sat across from me, repeatedly signaling to the waiter whenever my water glass needed refilling, as if I couldn't be trusted with this task. During the main course, Derek rose to give an impromptu speech about his journey at the firm. "Of course, behind every successful man is a supportive wife," he said, raising his glass in my direction without meeting my eyes. "And parents who instilled the right values and connections." He beamed at Eleanor and his father. As dessert arrived, Eleanor began her usual subtle interrogation of Sophia about potential suitors at Princeton. "The Whittington boy is in your year, isn't he? His grandfather and Derek's grandfather were in the same club at Yale." Sophia, who had recently come out to me as bisexual but hadn't told her father or grandparents, looked at me desperately. "Actually," I found myself saying, "Sophia's been too busy maintaining her position on the dean's list to worry about dating." I took a deliberate sip of water. "She's thinking of pursuing a PhD in environmental science." Eleanor's face tightened. "Academia is hardly as suitable." "What your grandmother means," Derek interrupted, "is that there's always time for a balanced life. Connections made in college often determine your entire future." As coffee was served, dark clouds gathered outside the club's floor-to-ceiling windows. The meteorologist had predicted a severe thunderstorm, but the timing couldn't have been worse. My phone vibrated with a weather alert just as Derek clinked his spoon against his glass to make another announcement. While I have everyone's attention, he said, standing, I'd like to share some exciting news. After careful consideration, I've decided to accept the position as managing partner of our new London office. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. London? This was the first I'd heard of it. We'll be relocating this summer, he continued confidently. A new adventure for the family. Eleanor clapped delightfully while I sat in stunned silence. Tyler, who'd been accepted to film school in Los Angeles, looked as shocked as I felt. My phone buzzed again. Not a weather alert this time, but a message from Marcus. Final contracts signed. We're official partners now. The storm outside intensified as thunder cracked and rain began lashing against the windows. It perfectly mirrored the storm building inside me as 20 years of suppressed anger, hurt, and determination coalesced into a single moment of clarity. London? I repeated, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet table. That's interesting, Derek. When exactly were you planning to discuss this with me? Derek's smile tightened. Let's talk about this at home, sweetheart. Why wait? I set down my napkin. Everyone's here. Your parents, your colleagues, our children. Perfect timing, really. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. Catherine, please remember where you are. Oh, I know exactly where I am, Eleanor. I stood slowly, feeling strangely calm. I'm at my husband's 20th work anniversary, discovering that my life is being relocated without my knowledge or consent, again. Derek grabbed my elbow, his fingers digging in. You're making a scene, he hissed. We'll discuss this later. The way we discussed my career, or the way we discussed selling my parents' house while I was visiting my dying father? My voice remained steady, though I could feel 20 years of rage pulsing beneath my skin. The table had gone completely silent. Even the adjoining tables were watching now. Catherine has had too much wine, Derek announced with a forced laugh. If you'll excuse us. I haven't had a drop, I said clearly. But you're right about one thing. I have had too much. Too much condescension, too much disrespect, and definitely too much of being treated like an accessory to your success rather than a partner in our life. Lightning flashed, illuminating the shocked faces around the table. Derek's boss shifted uncomfortably. Eleanor's face had turned a dangerous shade of red. You know what I realized recently? I continued, addressing the entire table now. I've spent 2 decades apologizing for where I came from, for who I am, diminishing myself to fit into a world that was never going to accept me anyway. That's enough. Derek slammed his hand on the table, making the crystal jump. We're leaving, now. I turned to face him fully. No, Derek, I'm not done yet. Mom, Sophia started, but I gave her a reassuring smile. It's okay, honey. I looked back at Derek. You should know that I'm not going to London. Neither are the kids, unless they choose to. And I won't be going home with you tonight either. Derek's face contorted with anger. Don't be ridiculous. Where exactly do you think you'll go? Back to your discount furniture in Bakersfield? That's when I said it. The secret I'd kept for 5 years. Actually, I'll be staying at the Mandarin Oriental tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be looking at properties in Brooklyn, where I'm opening headquarters for New Voice Media, a digital journalism platform I co-founded and partially own. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the storm seemed to pause. That's impossible, Derek finally sputtered. You don't have that kind of money. You don't have any money. My grandfather's tech shares, I explained calmly. They matured quite nicely. I'm worth approximately $28 million, Derek, and I haven't touched a penny of your money to build my company. Eleanor made a choking sound. You've been lying to my son? Planning some sort of coup behind his back? No, Eleanor. I've been finding myself again, while your son was busy planning our lives without my input. I turned to my children. Sophia, Tyler, I'll call you tomorrow. You're welcome to join me if you'd like. I gathered my clutch and wrap, suddenly aware of the partners and their wives staring open-mouthed. Derek's face had drained of all color. "You can't just walk out," he said, his voice oddly small. "It's pouring. How will you even get to the hotel?" I smiled. "I've arranged for a car." As I walked through the dining room, back straight, head high, I heard Eleanor's shrill voice. "Derek, do something. Go after her." But I was already pushing through the heavy doors into the lobby, then out under the portico where the rain came down in sheets. The valet looked concerned. "Ma'am, your husband's car is still parked. Would you like me to get it for you?" "No, thank you. I have my own ride coming." Derek burst through the doors behind me. "This is insane, Catherine. Get back inside now." When I didn't move, he grabbed my arm and pulled me out from under the shelter of the portico into the full fury of the storm. "You want to leave? Fine. Go ahead. Walk home in this." He gestured wildly at the deluge around us. "See how far your imaginary millions get you?" The valet stepped forward uncertainly, but Derek waved him back. My silk dress was soaked through in seconds, my carefully styled hair plastered to my face. "Mr. Harrison, please," the valet tried again. "Stay out of this," Derek shouted over the thunder. "My wife thinks she's suddenly independent. Let's see how she manages on her own." And with that, he stormed back inside, leaving me standing in the rain. I stood there, rain-soaked and shivering, for perhaps 30 seconds before the sleek black Bentley pulled up. The valet's eyes widened as Marcus himself stepped out, holding an umbrella. "Catherine, my God, are you all right?" He quickly sheltered me and guided me toward the car. "I'm fine," I said, and strangely enough, I meant it. Despite being drenched and publicly humiliated, I felt lighter than I had in years. As we pulled away, I saw Derek burst back outside, his face visible through the club's windows. He froze when he saw the Bentley, recognition dawning as Marcus turned to say something to me. The last image I had was of Derek's slack-jawed expression as we disappeared into the stormy night. At the hotel, the staff discreetly handled my bedraggled appearance, bringing dry clothes and hot tea to my suite. I called Sophia and Tyler, who were both still reeling but supportive. "Dad's going ballistic," Sophia reported. "Grandma had to take a sedative. They're all at our house now." "Are you okay there?" I asked, suddenly worried. "We're fine," Tyler assured me. "But, Mom, is it true about the company and the money?" I explained everything, how I'd kept the shares, watched them grow, and eventually connected with Marcus through a charity event 3 years ago. How his vision for elevating diverse voices in journalism had reignited my passion. How I'd been silently building a new life while enduring the old one. "Why didn't you leave sooner?" Sophia asked quietly. "I wanted you both in college first," I admitted, "and I needed to be completely independent when I did." The next morning brought chaos. Derek had frozen our joint accounts, but it hardly mattered. My lawyer called to inform me that Derek was demanding an emergency meeting. "Let him stew for a few days," I instructed. "I'm house hunting." By noon, however, an unexpected twist emerged. Derek's executive assistant, Jen, reached out asking to meet privately. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe in the city. "I shouldn't be doing this," she said nervously, sliding a folder across the table. "But after what he did to you last night, you need to see these." Inside were printouts of emails between Derek and the London office. The position had been offered 6 months ago, not recently. Worse, there were exchanges with a real estate agent about selling our house, dated 3 weeks earlier. "There's more," Jen said hesitantly. "The London position, it's not just a career move. There's someone there, a financial analyst named Margot. They've been seeing each other during his quarterly trips." The betrayal shouldn't have hurt after everything else, but it did, a sharp pain beneath my breastbone. Not for the loss of love, which had faded years ago, but for the sheer dishonesty of it all. "Thank you," I told Jen sincerely. "But why are you showing me this?" She straightened her shoulders. "Because I've watched him undermine you for 7 years. Because I'm tired of covering for him. And because I applied for a position at your new media company last week, not knowing it was yours. I found myself laughing through sudden tears. Well, that's quite a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, Jen replied, just long overdue justice. When I finally met with Derek 3 days later, it was at my lawyer's office. He arrived looking haggard, his usual polished appearance frayed at the edges. "You've made your point," he said immediately. "This public spectacle needs to end. Come home and we'll discuss London rationally." I silently passed him the folder Jen had given me. As he flipped through it, his face cycled through shock, anger, and finally, defeat. "How did you get these?" he asked hoarsely. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you were planning to uproot our family for a promotion and an affair. It's not what you think." "Save it," I interrupted. "I'm filing for divorce. I've already found a place in Brooklyn. The children are welcome to live with me while they finish school if they choose." "You can't take my children," he snarled, a flash of the previous night's rage returning. "They're 19 and 21, Derek. They'll decide for themselves." What followed was a month of legal negotiations, family therapy sessions, and rebuilding. Tyler decided to stay with his father until film school started, while Sophia moved into my new Brooklyn brownstone immediately. Eleanor tried calling once, not to apologize, but to accuse me of planning to destroy the family name all along. "The irony, Eleanor," I told her, "is that I never wanted to destroy anything. I just wanted to be treated as an equal." The most surprising development came from Marcus. What I'd thought was merely a professional partnership had deeper implications. As we worked side by side launching New Voice Media, I discovered he'd admired me for years, having read my early journalism work during his graduate studies. "You had such a distinctive voice," he told me one evening as we reviewed content for the platform's debut. "I could never understand why you stopped writing." "I lost myself for a while," I admitted, "but I'm finding my way back." 6 weeks after that stormy night, New Voice Media launched to significant industry attention. My personal story, the housewife turned media executive, became part of the narrative, though I kept the details of my marriage private. The platform's mission to amplify underrepresented voices resonated in the current media landscape. Derek, facing the prospect of both professional embarrassment and losing his children's respect, eventually agreed to an equitable divorce settlement. His London position was quietly rescinded after the managing partner, who had witnessed our confrontation, raised concerns about his judgment and character. Most healing was watching my children process everything. Tyler, initially loyal to his father, began asking difficult questions after finding text messages between Derek and Margot on the family iPad. "Did you know all along?" he asked me during one of our weekly dinners. "About Margot? No. About being unhappy? Yes, for longer than I care to admit." "Why did you stay?" "I considered this carefully. Partly for you and Sophia. Partly because I thought it was what I deserved, and partly because I wasn't ready to leave until I could do it completely on my own terms." As summer progressed, I reconnected with old friends from college and journalism school. I started writing again, personal essays about reinvention and autonomy that complemented our platform's mission. Eleanor and my father-in-law retreated to California. Their influence over our family diminished. Most surprisingly, I discovered that the grand gesture Derek had planned for our upcoming anniversary wasn't a trip or jewelry, but papers transferring our house solely into his name, preparation for the London move, and eventual divorce he'd been planning. The irony wasn't lost on me. One rainy evening, similar to that fateful night, Marcus and I worked late at the office. As thunder rolled outside, he looked up from his computer. "You know, I never asked, why a Bentley that night? It seemed rather theatrical." I smiled at the memory. Derek always said the day I could afford a Bentley driver was the day he'd take me seriously as an equal. I thought it was a fitting visual for my Declaration of Independence. Marcus laughed. "Remind me never to underestimate you." That, I told him, is something Derek learned the hard way. It's been a year since that stormy night. New voice media has exceeded our projections, featuring writers from backgrounds traditionally sidelined in mainstream journalism. Sophia is thriving in her environmental science program, and Tyler's short film won recognition at a student festival. Derek and I maintain a cordial relationship for the children's sake, though he's relocated to Chicago with Margot. As for me, I'm still finding pieces of the woman I once was, while embracing who I'm becoming. The journey hasn't been easy, but it's been mine. Every decision, every consequence, every triumph. Sometimes transformation doesn't arrive with fireworks and fanfare. Sometimes it comes in the quiet moments after the storm, when you finally hear your own voice above the thunder. If you're watching this and something resonates, if you've ever dimmed your light to make others comfortable or stayed in a situation that diminished you, remember that it's never too late to reclaim your story. Your past doesn't have to dictate your future. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away, head held high, into the rain. If you found value in my story, please subscribe to this channel for more content about resilience and transformation. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, the life you deserve might be waiting just on the other side of the storm.